Okay, so I'm going to cover a little bit more about what we talked about in the last video, or what I said that we should go into, which is basically things that you should work on when you want to be a rally leader, and things that you should work on when you want to be a joiner to a rally, or a filler, whatever name you happen to use for it. There are a lot of things that if you're just joining rallies that you can skip, and they don't really have much of an impact on the rallies that you're joining, or the rally leaders fighting in Capitol or in the towers. So let's start off by talking about the first thing on this list is the chief badges. Chief badges are completely and totally an offensive nature thing. And since when you're joining rallies, you're using the attacker's stats, badges, chief badges, chief gears don't really do anything for you. On the same note, the chief badges are exactly the same thing. They provide you an extra defense, and they provide you some lethality, but your stats are not the ones that matter if you're a joiner. Therefore, if you're a joiner, you wouldn't want to do anything to do with chief gears, and you don't need to do anything, and I don't mean you necessarily don't want to do, you don't need to do anything with chief gears or chief badges. Both of them don't affect you if you're strictly a joiner. Or if you're sitting in towers, or if you're sitting in the Capitol, and it's not your stats that matter. If it's your stats that matter, those things are very important. They affect all four of your key stats, which is attack, defense, health, and lethality. Moving on, another big thing that can make a difference is your resignating heroes, or your heroes themselves. These can, based on what I've seen, have some effect. Although it's not super dramatic, there are some stacking effects by some heroes, like Ash or some of those other ones like that, where the effects pile up and have some effects. Also, some of them, like Roxy, I think we recently learned that she does have some effects that are better than the resonating heroes, but not necessarily is that only a rally leaders type thing. There does seem to be some side effects of having those heroes, but the stats that go with them definitely seem to be related to the major battle based on the joiner, based on the rally leader, not the joiner. So there seems to be a little bit of less clearness here. I did notice in some of the older rallies, before they redid battle phases, when the troop losses for certain people were much more dramatic, now they've leveled them out a little bit more. Back then, it seemed that your heroes had a bigger impact on your losses, but it doesn't seem that makes much of a difference anymore. So I would say they're somewhat important to have the right resignated heroes to match your rally leader, or to match your leader generically across the board, but it's not of super high priority. Next is your badge, your gears, your hero gears. Your hero gears basically provide you with health and lethality, and they are totally worthless if you are just joining someone else's rally where you are not the leader. If you're the leader, again, these are something that you need, and this is something that all of the troops that accompany you will need to have. So in this case, you'll notice here that this one provides, for the military purposes, only health. Usually it's kind of a combination of either just health or just health and lethality. For the explorer side of things, yeah, you will want these regardless of who you are, unless you're just not interested in the explorer missions. That said, the types of gears really don't make any difference. Doesn't matter what color they are. You can just go with getting the standard ones from Trap and just upgrade them if you're just joiners. So that's really not going to make much difference to you. One thing that does matter significantly is the type of troops that you have. So as you can see here, with the attack being a far left column, the amount of troops that you have, this is the base of the troops. So if I join your rally with level 2 plasma troops, I have a 13 attack. And if someone else joins it with a level 8, they're going to have an 18 attack. That's the base regardless of the stats that get applied to them. That's where the stats then apply to, is these starting numbers here. You'll also notice that the plasma 3 and the plasma 5 and the plasma 8 have some significant things that do matter. First of all, as plasma 3, you get this electric barrier here. It makes a huge difference, and it does matter. And a lot of the times when we're fighting capital, you'll notice we say we want P3 through P5 or P3 or greater in the capital. This is the reason why, because this actual effect does help quite a bit with those troops. Then you've got the P8. I believe this one is the one that comes along with P8. I haven't seen it yet. Level 8 to unlock. Yeah, that does say that across the bottom. So this effect will equip only when there's level 8. So then we have the T11 troops. Now, T11 troops goes back to the previous page where we talked about the troops that you have do make a difference. And T11 adds an addition to this. So you got P5, you get 1 rating. If you get P5 T11s, you get another. Now, this list here is probably T11s. It is, because I show it across the bottom. If this was T10s, all these stats would be even lower. So it is important, if you're just a joiner, that you do want to do your T11. Now, a lot of people ask how T11 takes a lot of research. It takes a lot of plasma. What's more important, P6, 7, and 8, or T11? I've seen a bunch of things done on this. It appears that for a lot less cost, you can get P7 troops, and the P7 troops are as strong as the T11 troops, and it costs a lot less to actually get there in both plasma and in time and research and everything. So if you're going to have to pick one or the other, I would suggest that you pick for the joiners, that you pick the P7 upgraded troops, not just the P7 HQ. Now, for rally leaders, obviously, the bigger the power, the more you're going to have, the better off you are. But your troops aren't any more important than anyone else's troops. So it's important to know, for rally leaders, your chief gears, your chief badges, your hero gears, and your rally heroes, all of those elements are really super important, because all of those elements apply to everyone who joins your rally, who joins your tower, when your stats are taking effect. That goes back to the same thing here. Updating your HQ is not important. Having the troops that go along with them to all of the above is important. The troops themselves are also very important. So I want to say this in the sense that it doesn't matter. A lot of people have a tendency not to upgrade, and they leave in their base a whole bunch of T5s and T6s and T7s and T8s and T9s and T10s and blah, 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 blah. That is a really, really bad idea. It makes you very, very vulnerable. Those troops do not have anywhere near the strength of anything else, and they're not good for joining either. Because what happens is you take me as a P5 or a P6, and I start a rally, and instead of you joining with some significant troops, I get some T8s and I get some T9s, and you basically just destroy the power of my entire rally, or you destroy the tower or the center fighting capital, simply because your troops start off with a significantly lower stat. On the left-hand side, as you can see here, even a P2 is only a 13 attack, whereas a P8 is a 17. So if I'm out here fighting with a 16 or 17, and you join with a T9, you can imagine how much further down the rung that is. They're almost half the strength. So that's kind of a suicide march. So it is very important for all of the above to make sure that you're keeping up with your troops themselves. The type of troops that you have is very, very important. Okay, moving on. Let's talk about BP. BP is completely useless to everyone. It is made up of these stats here: your chief power, add it to your total battle troops added up, to your building power, battle power added up, to your tech power added up, to your gear power added up, to your hero power added up, to your hero power itself. All of those add up to meet your battle power. But when you go to war and you join my rally and my stats are bigger, the only thing that is affected is the amount of troops that you sent me. I'm not using your tech battle power. I'm not using your gear power. I'm not here using your hero gears. I'm not using your heroes. So none of those numbers matter at all. What matters is that the troops that you gave me add significantly to the stats that I have, or as a leader. So the leader, all of those numbers matter to a certain extent, because tech battle power is basically my research, and research can also have some impacts, good and bad, for different folks doing different way. So for example, if I do all of my research, all of my stats soar for it, but if I'm not the leader, none of it makes any difference. The only thing that makes any difference then becomes my troop power of the troops that I sent to you. Not all of them like it is registered here in my base, just the ones that are sent to you. So for example, we said here that our troop power for P5s is 15. That means if I send 10 of them, I'm going to send you 115 power to start, or 150 power to start with. If I send you 1,000 of them, I'll send you 15,000 power. If I send you T9s, I'm going to send you 9,000 power. That's a 6,000 power difference. So it's very important that the troops that you send are correct and a better and stronger thing. But it doesn't make any difference what your stats are, because your BP doesn't mean anything. I'm not using your cheap battle power. I'm not using all of your troops. I'm not using all of your this or that. You can go out and build a whole bunch of P9s and get 1 billion power. But that doesn't mean that it's going to do anything, because it's 1 billion power that you can't use all at once, except for defending. And on top of that, a lot of them are going to die. Okay, moving on. There are some things in the military side of things when you go into research that do make a difference. The number of slots that you have, that determines how many you can join, how many rallies you can join. That actually is probably significant. For the battle leader, it determines how many you can send. So that's good. March capacity, this is very important. How many of those troops can you provide to add to each of the rallies? So you'll build this up as you upgrade your buildings within your thing. And once you get to level 30, then there's other things, other researches and stuff you do. Training capacity, training speed, march speed, troop attack, troop defense, lethality, and all these stats here apply to you building more troops, apply to you healing troops, apply to you training troops, apply to you attacking and defending and lethality. But since if you're not the rally leader, none of these stats are used anyway, and therefore they're irrelevant. So that brings us to the most important thing to remember here. If you're not the rally leader, if you're the rally leader, almost all of this stuff is important. All of it has some play in what you're doing and how you're doing it. You can kind of look at being a rally leader as going out and just soloing people all by yourself. If you can't solo people all by yourself, you're not going to be a good rally leader, because all the joiners are interested in doing is providing the best troops they can provide. None of their stats, none of the other attributes around them matter. It all comes down to these basic stats right here.